In this video, we're going to do a quick introduction to the Internet Protocol version 4, and then in the next video, we're going to do the same thing for the Internet Protocol version 6. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about how they work because I have a later section in the course detailed solely to IP addressing, so this is just going to be an overview of how they work and why we use them. So what is IP? Well, IP stands for the Internet Protocol, like I just said, and it's really the primary protocol for moving data across the internet from one network to the next. So when we're talking about moving data over wide area networks, that's what this is all about. And we call this the moving truck of the internet because this is all about moving data from one network to the next across wide area networks. And so, for example, if I wanted to send a packet of information from my computer in the United States to China, I would use IP addressing and I would use my router to send it out across wide area networks. And if we think about this, a good example would be a moving truck analogy. So let's say I was going to pack up and I was going to move across country, let's say to Washington, D.C. I would have to pack up all of my boxes and I'd load them into that moving truck and I'd drive that moving truck across the country on the different highways. And eventually I would get to Washington, D.C. So that's what this is all about. It's all about getting that information, getting that stuff from point A to point B. And its primary job is simply just to get that data there, and that's what it focuses on, and that's what it does really well. So it is exceptionally well, and it does a really great job with moving data back and forth throughout the internet via routing. And remember, we talked about routing in a previous lecture. We talked about how it works and how routers use routing protocols to send packets of information from one router to the next, and they determine the best route to get it there. Well, that's what IP addressing is all about. So what it does is that, like we said when we talked about our previous lecture, we did the introduction to routing, it looks at the destination IP address and it looks at its routing table and it uses routing protocols and it determines what's the best way to get it onto the next router to get it to its destination. Now, one unique thing about IP addressing is that it's a connectionless protocol. So it fires off this packet to the next router and it forgets and it's done. It says, my job is done here. I've taken this packet, I've determined the best method to get it to the next router to get it to its destination. I'm going to fire it off and then I'm done. So it doesn't have any sort of method to check to make sure it got there. That's what other protocols are all about. IP doesn't do any of this, and we have to talk about other protocols for that. So just remember, IP just fires it off and it forgets. Now, let's do a quick introduction to the formatting. Remember, the formatting again is the dotted decimal notation, the 192.168.1.1. And if you break this up, we can break this up into smaller bits into binary. And when we break it up into binary, what it is that it's a 32-bit address. And when we talk about 32-bit, there's 4 bytes. And so we have a byte here, we have a byte here, we have a byte here, and a byte here. And if you do the math, of adding up these 32 bits and we do our binary math, this gives us a total of possible of this many addresses. So 4.2 billion addresses potentially usable with IP version 4. Now, the crazy thing is that we're actually running out of IPv4 addresses because it's not that efficient, and so we're starting to make the move to IPv6. And that's what the next lecture is all about. So let's go ahead and let's get into that, and let's talk about IPv6 on our next video.